Welcome to this video on colons and semicolons from the Learner Development Team at Manchester Metropolitan University. The aim of this session is to explain the correct usage of colons and semicolons so that you can use them effectively in your academic writing. Let's start by considering why it is important to learn how to use colons and semicolons correctly. Firstly, they can be used to communicate information or arguments in an interesting or persuasive way. They can capture the reader's attention and indicate that you are an advanced and sophisticated writer. Finally, using them incorrectly can confuse your reader, weaken your argument, and indicate that you are not a strong communicator. Let's start by explaining the three main uses of the colon. These are before a list, before a quotation, or before a clarification. Let's look at each of these individually, starting with the listing colon. The purpose of this colon is to introduce a list of items. Here are some examples of this usage. Several important bands have come from Manchester: Oasis, The Smiths, Take That, The Hollies, and the Stone Roses. Manchester United have won the European Cup, or UEFA Champions League, 3 times: 1968, 1999, and 2008. There are several libraries in Manchester city centre: John Ryland, the Portico Library and Gallery, and Manchester Central Library. Notice that the first part of the sentence before the colon is an independent clause, meaning that it could stand on its own as a full sentence. Also note that the parent item is named in each example. Bands in example 1, the European Cup or UEFA Champions League in example 2, and libraries in example 3. Only when we have this parent item in the first clause can we start a list with a colon. Please pause the video so that you can have a go at writing some sentences using a listing colon. When you are ready to carry on, just press the continue button. Next, let's look at how to use a colon before a quotation. When a quotation fits into your sentence without disrupting the syntax or flow of your writing, there is no need to place any punctuation before the quotation, as seen in this example. Stuart Marconi's claim that Manchester changed the world's politics places the city at the forefront of radical thinking. However, if you wish to introduce or set up the quotation, or if the quotation does not run smoothly into the sentence, it is appropriate to put a colon before it, as seen in this example. Others are less complimentary. He chose to live in Manchester, a wholly incomprehensible choice for any free human being to make. Again, notice how the part of the sentence that precedes the quotation is an independent clause, or standalone sentence. Others are less complimentary. Now please pause the video and have a go at writing some examples of your own. If you don't have a quotation to hand, you can make one up to practice with. Press play when you're ready to continue. Finally, let's look at the clarifying colon. The clarifying colon can be a stylish way to provide additional information in a sentence, or to clarify or explain a point. It can be useful to think of the first part of the sentence as setting up a question, and the second part following the colon as revealing the answer to this. For example, there are 2 things Manchester is famous for worldwide: music and football. Notice here how the first part before the colon sets up the information, and the part following the colon provides the detail. The same is clear in these other examples. One symbol has come to represent Manchester: the worker bee. There is one topic that continues to divide the city: City or United. Now pause the video and have a go at writing some sentences using a clarifying colon. When you are ready to carry on, just press continue. Now, let's move on to semicolons. A semicolon is placed between two independent clauses, or full sentences, to indicate that the 2 points are closely related. Let's look at this example. Manchester is known for its rainy weather. Umbrella sales are very high here. Notice that the semicolon must go between two independent clauses. You could use a full stop rather than a semicolon here, as they are both full sentences. However, using a semicolon rather than separating them with a full stop implies that the 2 points are closely related. You can see another example here. This example shows the incorrect use of a semicolon, as the first part of the sentence, although not as geographically large as Birmingham, is not an independent clause. It is not a full sentence and cannot stand on its own. Semicolons can be very effective in implying connections between points. However, be careful not to overuse them in your writing. Now, let's test your knowledge of when to use colons and semicolons. For each sentence, choose whether you would use a colon or a semicolon in the space between the clauses. Pause the video whilst you try this. Once you have completed the task, click Continue to see the answers and check how many you got right. As you can see with number 1, this sentence uses a colon because it introduces a list. With example 2, this sentence uses a clarifying colon. With example 3, a semicolon is used to connect two closely related independent clauses. In example 4, the colon is used to introduce a quotation. And in example 5, the semicolon is used to connect two related independent clauses. So, to summarize, there are 3 main uses of a colon: to introduce a list, before a quotation, or to clarify a statement. A semicolon goes between two independent clauses to indicate a connection between the 2 points. I hope you found this video useful. Find more videos on academic writing and study skills on the website.